Most of us aren't waking up and saying that we want to be a teacher or mentor, leader, guide. Like, we weren't trying to become an example for other people. We weren't trying to build a following or gain recognition. You were simply just focusing on your own path. You spent the time doing the work that felt meaningful, interesting, important to you. You kept learning because you were curious. You kept practicing because you wanted to improve. You kept showing up because the work mattered to you. Most of the time, you probably thought that you were just living your life. You didn't realize that every experience was shaping you. You didn't realize that every challenge was teaching you something valuable. You didn't realize that every mistake was giving you wisdom that others would eventually need. While you were focusing on the work itself, you were becoming someone different. You were developing skills, you were developing perspective, patience, resilience. You were becoming stronger in ways that weren't always visible. The person that you were becoming was being quietly built, one day at a time. Growth often doesn't happen just in an instant. Growth is gradual, and we usually don't notice it while it's happening. We only see the change when we look back and realize how far we've come. Many people think that preparation is something intentional. They think that preparation only happens when someone has a specific goal in mind, but often the most important preparation happens by accident. It happens through the everyday effort, through that consistency. It happens through the years of doing something because it just felt right. Long before you understood where your path was leading you, you were already walking towards it. Long before you felt ready, you were already becoming. Long before you believed that you had anything valuable to offer, you were already gathering the knowledge that would eventually help others. People naturally seek guidance from those who seem grounded and capable. They often trust the person that quietly done the work more than the person who just talks about it. Experience creates a kind of credibility that can't be faked, and people can often just sense that authenticity. They can sense that someone's earned it through the understanding, through real experience. They may not even know why they trust that person. They simply just recognize something solid, something dependable. And because of this, people often turn towards those who develop those genuine concepts and skills. They ask questions, they seek advice, they look for reassurance, they look for examples to follow. They look for someone who's already walked through the challenges that they're trying to face. It can feel strange, I should say, when you never wanted the responsibility. You may wonder why people keep coming to you. You may feel like there's more qualified people available. You may question whether you're right or you're the right person for the role. You may feel unprepared despite all the evidence that you're capable. You may see yourself as a person that's just used to being used sometimes. Meanwhile, someone else sees a person that you've become. Sometimes others recognize the growth before we do. And sometimes our self-image takes years to catch up with reality. And this creates, an internal conflict. Part of you may understand that you change, but another part of you wants things to stay the same. Parts of you may feel called towards something greater, that responsibility, but another part of you may just want the simplicity of the past. You may miss the days when no one expected anything from you. You may miss being able to make mistakes in private. You may miss having fewer people to rely on you, or even feeling anonymous or feeling invisible. You may miss that freedom that came with carrying less responsibility. And there was nothing wrong with feeling that way. Missing the old life doesn't mean that you're ungrateful. Feeling overwhelmed doesn't mean that you're weak. And feeling reluctant doesn't mean that you're incapable. It simply means that the growth often comes with a loss, and every new chapter requires something to be left behind. Every new version of ourselves means that we have to say goodbye to the old version. Even positive change comes with grief. Even meaningful opportunities can feel heavy. Important callings can feel inevitable. And sometimes things that are best suited are not the things that we chose for ourselves. The difficult truth is that growth changes who we are, and growth changes what is possible. And once you learned certain lessons, you can't unknow them. Once you develop certain strengths, it's difficult to pretend like they aren't there. Once you've gained certain experiences, your perspective is permanently expanded. The person that you used to be cannot fully return because you're no longer that person. You've seen too much, you learned too much, and you've grown too much. The path forward may seem unfamiliar, but it's still your path. You don't need to apologize for that hesitation, and you don't need to pretend that the responsibility feels easy. You don't have to act authentic every moment. You don't need to force yourself to love every aspect of the role that you're growing into. You're allowed to be tired, to feel uncertain, to question things. You're allowed to wish that some parts of your life were simpler. You're allowed to acknowledge the cost of growth. And at the same time, it's important to recognize what brought you here. You didn't just arrive here through manipulation. You didn't arrive here through self-promotion alone. You didn't just arrive here by demanding recognition. You arrived here because you just kept going. You just kept working. You kept learning when no one else was watching. You kept improving when there was no guarantee for a reward. You stayed committed when it would have been easier to quit. You developed a certain type of character before you developed that visibility. You built the foundation before anyone noticed the building. And people often trust those who have quietly earned their knowledge. They trust people whose actions match their words. They trust the people who understand the struggle firsthand. They trust people who have experience rather than the people who just had opinions on it. They trust people who've continued to show up longer and just kept going after the excitement wore off. What attracts others is not perfection, it's authenticity, it's consistency, it's sincerity. It's the evidence that someone has walked the path just like them. People are often seeking for that proof that growth is possible. So they look for examples, they look for evidence, they look for people whose lives demonstrate what they hope to achieve. Sometimes, without intending to, you become that example. You may never fully get used to that responsibility. You may never fully, completely stop missing that simpler life, that season of your life. You may want to carry a part of yourself that just long for those quieter days, and that's okay. You don't have to erase that feeling. You don't have to fight it. You can honor what you lost and still embrace what you're becoming. The real lesson is not that you're choosing. The real lesson is not the choice to be perfect. The lesson is that all those years of effort has changed you, has shaped your character, expanded your responsibility. They prepared you in a way that you just couldn't see at the time. What feels natural to you now may become exactly what someone else needs to help them learn. What feels ordinary to you may be something extraordinary to someone who's just beginning their journey. You don't have to become someone else. You don't have to force yourself into a role that isn't authentic. You don't have to perform or pretend. You only need to continue being the person that you already spent years becoming. The responsibility that you carry today is not proof that your life took something from you. It's proof that your growth produced something valuable. The fact that people are seeking your guidance means your experience matters. The fact that others trust your perspective means that your journey means something. The fact that your voice carries weight means that your effort is creating something real. You may not have chosen to be a guide, you may not have planned for others to look up to you, and you may not always feel ready, but readiness is often discovered through the action, not before it. The role found you because of the person that you became. And the person that you became was shaped by the everyday tasks that you did. And you just kept showing up, even when no one was watching. So with that being said, Metal Head being, Leg Gang. Peace, family. Peace.